Hey everyone, welcome to another episode of Doll Me Maybe. This is M. Let's get started. Alright, let me get my workplace situated and cleaned up a little bit. Today we are working with the Catty Noir doll base. Now the doll that I purchased has the tail with it. It just is not attached, so I will decide later on in the process if I will use the tail for the final presentation. And try not to get the hair tangled with the tail. Just put that off to the side into my little cauldron. And as usual, I will be keeping this hair for a later project. But here I am inspecting the head, looking at the ear details, since this will be the first doll I'm working with that has the cat ears, or at least the ears that are on top of the head instead of on the sides. If you've been watching my channel, you know the routine. If you are new here, the first step is going to be removing the factory hair. So I'm going to take the elastic and move it to the middle of the hair and then just chop it away. I didn't really expect it to be as challenging to work around the ears, but I did almost nick the cat ears a couple of times while cutting the hair off for this process. I also learned that the Catty Noir doll's head is made of a softer vinyl, so throughout this entire process I was being very wary and very delicate with the head. With this doll I will be using curly rerooting hair in that coppery red color I just showed you, and then continue to cut the hair as close to the scalp as I can for the next step. And once again, if you've been on my channel before, you know what the next step is. If not, the next step will be removing the head and then scraping the hair out with a flathead screwdriver. Now, not to brag, but I did not speed up this next clip because you guys know how hard of a time I have with removing the doll heads. This one went so fast, I actually had a full body reaction of just excitement to how quickly this process went. I won't get too cocky though, because I am sure that the process went faster because the vinyl of this doll's head was much softer than any of the other dolls I've worked with. But as we wait for the head to soak, I will start digging into a little bit of the lore about this doll. She is a humanoid cat apothecary who happened to stumble upon the mythical forest in her mortal life. And from her childhood all the way to her adult life, she had this cat friend who seemed to always be around when she needed her most. And through her childhood into her adulthood, she sought refuge with this cat friend of hers. And as she grew older and reached the end of her life, her cat friend revealed that she was an immortal being. And as thanks for the years of friendship, the cat revealed that she could merge souls with the apothecary so they could live together forever. The apothecary gladly agreed, and they have been together ever since. And here you're going to see my genuine reaction to being able to remove the head as easily as I do. I started out being able to do it in about 8 minutes and then about 5, and here it takes me less than a minute. So I felt so powerful in this moment. But as I mentioned before, the Catty Noir doll's head is a much softer vinyl, so I am going to be very delicate throughout the entire process of rerouting and repainting this doll. I'm going to be honest, I have no idea what I was telling you in this moment with my hands. I was probably saying something important, but here we are, wiping off the body so it's dry, and we're going to put that to the side until we're ready to blush it. Also, in the last video, I tried to leave the name as a surprise, as like some grand reveal, and then totally forgot that the titles of all my videos are the names of the dolls I'm working on. So, the doll we were working on today is named Galena. Galena translates to calm or serenity, or also can be used to identify a natural mineral that exists in Earth. Now, one thing that I encountered with this doll that I did not have an issue with any of my other dolls was that the hair did not come out as cleanly as it did before. Like, I was able to scrape most of it out, but there were little strands of hair that I was unable to scrape out from the inside of the scalp and unable to pull out with tweezers from the outside. So I kind of just poked them in with the little rooting tool to get them out of the way. Now, this doll is for my friend Ryan, and we became friends in college and really related on the fact that we enjoyed our solitude. We loved being alone and kind of staying away from people in general. Now, the vibe for this doll was going to be an earthy hermit sort of character who enjoyed spending her days with her woodland creatures and in her garden and whipping up medicinal remedies for her friends and anyone who needed them. So I guess to make a long story short, this doll is a healer. The character of Galena is sort of the manifestation of Ryan in this mythical forest. As a friend, Ryan has always been so good at helping me feel heard, helping me relate to someone else in my experience, helped me feel less alone, and I have valued that so much through the entirety of our friendship. And of course, meeting in college, it was very refreshing to befriend someone who didn't want to just go out and party all the time and drink, but was just fine with ordering pizza and chilling with friends indoors, and that was something I really cherished at that time in my life. But enough, I know, you get it, I love my friends, but I just want you to know why this doll was important to me and why I wanted to give it all that I could and make it as special as possible. So because the vinyl of this doll's head was so soft, I waited 24 hours before I attempted to reroute it. But as you can see here in the video, I'm pointing that I put a thin layer of liquid fusion glue, which is what I would use to repair any splits in the scalp. But in this case, I used it to prevent any splitting while I did the reroute. And in this moment, I'm just inspecting the head to make sure it is safe to continue on rerouting and that I don't need to put any more glue anywhere else just for protection. Now here I started speeding up the process because I didn't realize that there were rubber bands there, and it really did kick my butt having to take the rubber band out of here. As you can see, it pulled the hair a little bit, so then I learned for the second side to just snip the rubber band with scissors instead. And rerouting is somewhat of a long process. For the last two dolls I've done, I have done yarn wigs, but I wanted to do a reroute because I really wanted to work with curly hair for this doll, and I don't regret it, because it actually took half the hair and half the time, because with a normal rerouting process, I would take each one of the holes that are established from the factory hair and just refill them with the new hair. But because this curly hair was so full, I ended up being able to do every other row instead of all of them, and it came out looking so full and so beautiful. Also, it's very important for me to be able to use this texture of hair because I sort of go into each doll project imagining the end result, but specifically for the dolls I've been making, they have been an avatar for the friends that I'm making them for. And Ryan has very full, very voluminous hair, and I remember in school she would wear it naturally and she had a side part. This doll I'm going to do a metal part, but it was so beautiful, and I just wanted to sort of pay homage to that with this doll. Now typically I just show you the beginning stages of a reroute because rerouting takes anywhere from like 6 to 8 hours for me to reroute an entire doll, so I don't feel like you guys want to watch it, and I don't feel like my camera would be able to last that long. So here we are seeing how it's turning out, how we're going to shape it when it does get filled out all the way, and move on to the next step. And since I haven't done a reroute since the first doll, here is me just sealing the inside with the Fabri-Tac glue, and I will squirt a healthy amount of that into the scalp, and I will take a Q-tip and then sort of pat it down into the scalp. I know some people like spread it and smear it, but I like to make sure that it's getting really into the roots of each follicle of hair just to make sure that it does stay when it dries. I don't know what was with me, but I was in a mood. I was very into thumbs up for this video, so yay, I guess. Now here you will see that the eyes are already prepped, and that is by total accident because I started quote-unquote recording and then got interrupted by a knock on my door and then realized that I was not recording. So had I not gotten that knock on my door, I would have gotten none of the repaint on video because I was just in my own little world. So with this doll, she has a deeper complexion, and with makeup, when you're using eyeshadows or any of those pigmented makeups and you want to pop as well on darker skin tones, you want to put down a base of a concealer that is lighter than the skin tone so that it pops just as much as it does on white skin. And that's sort of the same idea I was doing with the white charcoal, and the eyebrows were inspired by owl's feathers, and I tried to make the eyes kind of emulate the eyes of an owl without having them look dark and haunting like an owl sometimes looks. So for the eyebrows and the eyes, I had a very distinct idea of what I wanted to do, but the makeup ended up just falling into place because I ended up doing blue and purple for the eyeshadow, and that was because the costume I was making was made from jewel tone fabrics. And I have a process from the outfit I made, but I have 2 tones of blue, a purple, and then an earthy brown, kind of a tan color as well. Also, I feel like it should be said, this sock is clean. It looks like it is dirty, but it is clean, I promise you. It is fresh out of the washer. In the end, the eyes and the makeup ended up taking on a jewel tone theme. The eyes ended up being green, two different shades of green kind of blended together to replicate, I suppose, an emerald, but also just to pop against the blue makeup a little bit better than a darker eye would. Also, it may not seem like it, I am trying to experiment with this video, giving a little bit more space for me talking. I don't think that's really happening right now, but we can be quiet sometimes. Yeah. I'm the sort of person in my waking life who does not feel the need to fill space with speaking that doesn't have any purpose. So I don't know why the impulse is happening with videos, but we're trying to find a happy medium for me at least. And here I am putting on the final touches, a few little details to help make the makeup pop and some of the features a little bit more prominent. And I'm really happy with how it turned out and ready to move on. And thumbs up, I guess. Yeah. Yippee. As I mentioned before, this is the color palette for the outfit I am making. The two blue colors are going to be for the dress. The purple is for a cape or a cloak that she will have over, more like a shawl, sorry. And then an apron with the tan color. So for the outfit, I did most of the pattern cutting on camera, and then I did the sewing off camera because my sewing machine isn't on my craft table, so I don't feel like moving the camera to record that. As I make more doll clothing, I've been learning how to adapt the patterns that I've used in the past, and also just learning and feeling more comfortable with sewing the garments onto the dolls after I make the pattern. But I wanted to make the back of this tank top, I guess, of the dress open in the back, and then I wanted there to be a wraparound dress that I would then secure in the front with some embellishments with stones and pretty beads. Now here you can see me grabbing the wrong color of fabric for the skirt. So I'm measuring out how much fabric I'm gonna need for the skirt and cutting it out, preparing it and everything, and then realizing that I needed the dark blue instead. So I just took that same amount of fabric that I used because I could use it for the shawl as well, and I ended up cutting out the blue fabric instead because that is what I actually needed for the skirt. So working without patterns, I feel a lot more comfortable draping the clothing. So you'll see me taking the clothes, putting them over the doll, just gauging how I think it'll look and cutting it down to size and imagining where I will sew it and see how the final product will come together. But as I said before, I kind of cut all the patterns out here and then I sewed them off camera, and you will see that this is how it started to turn out. It looks a little frumpy right now, but as I sew the back and secure it and then put the beading on and this little belt that I ended up creating, it does bring a little bit more shape to the garment. And with doll clothing, I've learned to improvise because you can see on the ends of the skirt there's a little bit of a chunky stitch there where I backstitched. So I just figured I would cover that up with some beading and embellishments. Sort of the idea with makeup where just throw glitter on it and it'll make it look pretty. That's my same thought with clothing and beads. The best part of making doll clothing is that I don't need to design them or make them with the idea of movement in mind. They are for display purposes, so if I can secure the doll clothing and make it secure enough to display on a shelf, then that is all I need to do. Now here you see me removing the beads that I was trying to secure. I was trying to do 4 at a time with 1 stitch, and then realized it would just work better and stay more securely if I did 1 bead with each stitch. But I was happy that I got this on camera, because for the last 2 dolls, I've done some sort of beaded embellishment and forgot to record it. And so I'm very happy for you to see the process of this. It's nothing spectacular, but it is fun to do, just to kind of give these finishing touches and finer details to the doll clothing that I make. And this is another point where improvisation really comes in handy, because I realized that I put the beads there before I put the apron, so I needed to figure out how to position all of these other details I wanted to add, like the belt and the apron, now that the beads existed, because I did not want to remove those. I liked that little detail and I wanted to keep them there. This greenery you see me cutting with wire cutters was something I used for a project where I was experimenting with making a house out of cardboard, and this was something I used as greenery or moss, I suppose, in the house. So I figured it'd be a great addition to her belt, maybe some herbs that were drying for her medicinal concoctions, or maybe for a soup she was making for someone. But I just liked adding a little bit of the earthy touch to her outfit. At this point, I decided that a really fun way to secure the shawl would be to add these little stone-shaped beads and put a cluster of them there, just to add a little bit of pop of contrast there from the purple fabrics and the blue fabrics with the white rock beads, I suppose. Here I am putting on the final details, seeing if it needed anything else. I decided she needed some bangles, so I put some silver bangles on her because her vibe was a little bit cooler. I think that the gold would have clashed a little bit too much with her outfit, so I loved having the idea of a platinum or a silver bracelet for her. And I didn't get it on camera because I decided after the fact, but I did end up securing her skirt with some beads as well to cover up some of that backstitching that I had. Here I was, putting her on her stand, giving her a little bit of a trim, finding flyaways that need to be cut off, how to shape her hair a little bit more, and just kind of push the hair out of the face so that you could see a lot more of the makeup as well. But I was very pleased with how it turned out, and here is the final doll. Introducing Galena, the immortal apothecary of the mythical forest. She is the healer of the mythical creatures here, and she loves her garden, and she loves the animals, and she loves caring for people and healing others. I just love how this doll turned out, and I hope that you guys do too. Let me know what you think in the comments, and I will see you guys in the next video. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye.